So this is our third anniversary celebration, and we have Ashley to celebrate with us, which is wonderful, because Ashley has been part of the PBBI from the inception. I believe actually we can talk about her and her parents, if I'm not mistaken, attended the president's lecture. Am I wrong or am I right, Ashley?
No, you are correct. They did come
Yeah.
down for that.
I know, and we are hoping that some other folks will join us. We'll see. We of course extended an invitation, but we know people are busy, and that's why we have this as a recording as well, and it's up on Facebook. I'm going to share just a little bit of a slideshow with you, and to talk a little bit about some PBBI events, and get also Ashley's opinion on some of the things, and how things might be a bit different at Fresno State. We hope, in part, thanks to a PBBI. So it is our third anniversary, and I'm not going to take too long on this, but I wanted to share some things with you. That we are a program of three different colleges: the Jordan College of Agricultural Science and Technology, the College of Arts and Humanities, and the College of Social Science. So it's kind of unique in that aspect that we have work with three different colleges. The Jordan College of Agriculture is where we do most of the exchange programs right now with the Azores. College of Social Science, where we do some of the oral history, and College of Arts and Humanities, where we do the oral history. And then all three colleges participate in our speaker series, and we have a lot of other things as well. We also always want to thank FLAD, the Luz American Development Foundation, and it was through FLAD and the beginning of the exchange program that actually preceded the Institute by 3 years that we began this process. So the first how this happened was actually at the president of FLAD at the time, Dr. Vasco Hatt was here. We were having dinner with a couple of community leaders and a couple of Portuguese Americans in public service, and we said, how about investing in a university in the San Joaquin Valley, because most of FLAD's investment or in Central California had been in Northern California. They've invested at UC Berkeley, they've invested in San Jose State, they've invested in at UC Santa Barbara in the past. They had some short-time investment also with CSU Stanislaus. How about Fresno State? And so we kind of pitched it, and from there began the exchange program, and 3 years later, the Institute. So this is when we launched it, actually, in March of 2019. Then President, now Chancellor Castro, and of course, you see their associate dean at the time of the College of Jordan College of Ag and Technology, Dr. Thompson, along with him. On my far right, the way I'm looking at it, which is our current president, then Dean of College of Arts and Humanities, Dr. Saul Jimenez Sandoval. And there, the lady in the present there is Dr. Michelle Dinbesti, who was the Dean of College of Social Science, who is now the provost at Washington Central University. And then, of course, next to President Castro is the president of the government of the Azores at the time. He no longer is the president of the government of the Azores, and that is President Vasco Cordeiro. And so that's how we launched it, the Portuguese Beyond Borders Institute. This is just a little bit our mission, basically, and I won't take time to read it to you. It's there, and it's available through our websites if you care to know a little bit more about PBBI. And this is just a picture that was actually taken recently in September, when the new Consul General of Portugal in San Francisco came to this area, and some of the folks that were there to meet and greet him right after we met with President Saul Jimenez Sandoval. Our vision for PBBI, and the picture is a wonderful picture of some Tulare Joint Union High School District students from about, I believe, 5 years ago now. And this was taken in Fresno, a day that we had that actually was a speaker at the last time we did it, which was in March of 2020, right before the pandemic. Actually, that was like 2 weeks later, we got this news, correct?
Yes, it was right after. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, we had a bunch of things planned, and then all of a sudden we had this event with as you know, over 300 students. And Ashley was one of the speakers. We had some student speakers as well. students from all three of Tulare high schools that take Portuguese. And about a week and a half later, we're getting news that the coronavirus is just spreading like wildfire, and campuses across the CSU system are looking at this, and okay, maybe we'll close for a week right before spring break, and that's kind of what happened. Maybe this will be over by spring break, and then another 2 weeks, and then 2 years later, we're finally open, and we'll talk a little bit with Ashley about that, actually, because I think that's important info for folks to know. These are some of the things that we're involved in, that we're doing right now, or about ready to start. And so there's a bunch there. It'll probably burn your eyes to look at all of them. So we're going to try to break it down a little bit. Of course, our major is the oral history, and we've been at we've had a handicap in that, without having been able to go to people's homes and record history. But we're hoping that is changing, and it has already changed a little bit in the last 30 to 45 days, but we've been very, very cautious. We're hoping that after spring break, we can get into more people's homes to record. And we actually have a session that I did, it's on YouTube, about oral history and how we're going to have some community forums and start recording more folks on for both projects, the oral history as in video, and also in audio. And one good thing is the library has just approved, and I shared that with everyone a couple of weeks ago, the library has just approved, because that's where everything is stored. The library has just approved that we can do oral history through Zoom. And that's a big changer for us, a game changer, especially because some people it's better for them. It's more convenient than, us going into their home, even, without a pandemic. And so being able to do it through Zoom will open up new doors, and we're going to start to investigate that as well. Our Bruma publication is finally going to publish our first book. Finally, well, we just launched it a few months ago, but it's called Contos Populares Portugueses da Califórnia, or Portuguese Folk Tales from California. It was actually a work done by Professor Manuel da Costa Fontes. It'll be our first publication. We are now working with a layout. We are working with the cover, and we're hoping to have it out. Probably it will be next semester, because we want to have an in-person event, but it'll probably be out about 2 months before the semester actually begins. Something that we've began, and it's done through social media, and we have a site on Google Sites with it. It's called Olhos nos Livros, or Eyes on Books. So every single week, we have 4 different people that are working on this, myself and 3 other folks. Manuela Marujo, Professor Manuela Marujo from the University of Toronto, Professor Emeritus now. Professor José Luís da Silva from San Jose, also Professor Emeritus, and João Mendonça, a sculptor and writer from New Jersey. So we have both coasts and Canada also covered. And every week we're going to feature small examples, as you see here, featuring one different book written by Portuguese Americans in Portuguese. This is to promote the Portuguese language here in the United States. Our Cagajo Colloquium, our community of writers, is up and running. We have actually an event coming up with 2 young writers here from California, and that will be actually this Wednesday. That is this Wednesday, tomorrow. And it will be a Zoom event and also Facebook Live. And it will be with Tony Roma and Tyler Freitas, both young Portuguese American writers. We'll talk about their writing. They'll read from their work. So it's always a fun way to promote young Portuguese Americans who are writing. We have quite a few that are part of the Master of Fine Arts program at Fresno State. We have one student right now working in her Master of Fine Arts from Fresno State, who's a Portuguese background. We have one who is finishing up and is actually teaching in the program. We have another one who works on campus and service learning, and who is also a graduate from the MFA program. Some of our events, of course, are, as I said, with the University of the Azores, our exchange program. And the exchange program, we want to open it up to various universities. We've had, of course, the pandemic in the middle of this. As you can see there on the left side, there's a bunch of us meeting on Zoom. Actually, Ashley was part of that meeting as well. We're hoping to get a formalized protocol between SIPN, the Study in Portugal Network, and Fresno State done and it's in its last of the phase. So we think that it will actually should be officialized in the next 30 to 45 days. And next semester, with everything back in place, we can all work to get our students to study and have more opportunities to study in Portugal, including, of course, at the college, through the Jordan College and the University of the Azores. Our lecture series is something that we began with 3 lectures when we were doing in person. The second semester, we were a bit more audacious, and we did 4 lectures, which is a lot, considering all the lectures that are done at Fresno State. It's not just us doing lectures; everyone is doing lectures, and we had always good turnout. Always in the dozens and high dozens, and sometimes, of course, with the president of the government Azores, there were over 300 people, but that didn't always happen. But we moved everything to online. We're still going to continue online this semester, but hopefully next semester we will have a hybrid version. So we're always going to have at least 4 or 5 online, and we're hoping to have 3 or 4 in person for a total of about 8 to 9 different lectures per semester. And I think that that's one way to promote, of course, the exchanges between Portugal and the United States, but also to bring forth different discussions that we've had about topics that are meaningful to the Portuguese American community as integral parts of the American mainstream society. This is a little bit about our Portuguese American Hour. It's a radio program that we do between 4 and 5 p.m. on KGST Multicultural Radio every single day. And we always try to have different, we have an Azorian corner, we have a recipe section, we have all kinds of different things that we try to bring to you every single weekday, Monday through Friday. Our PBBI collection at the library, the Portuguese Beyond Borders Institute collection, is up and running. Here's a picture of our books, and here's a picture on the top left side. You see the link. If you just type actually Portuguese Beyond Borders Institute collection at Fresno State Library, you can go to it. And it's very small print, but there's some of the books that the students have instant access to them. So it really is a wonderful tool for our students, for our faculty, for our staff, and of course, for those in the community as well. We're all about partnerships, so we partner up with different organizations. As you can see here, some of the different things that we've been partnering up with. Our Voices, As Nossas Vozes, is a partnering project with PALCUS, the only national organization that is Portuguese American, the Portuguese American Leadership Council of the United States. And we actually have one this Thursday with Representative, as you can see right there, Pillars of the Community, with Representative Antonio Cabral, immigrant from the island of Pico, came at a very young age, and is state representative in Massachusetts. This is a national program, so we're going to feature folks from all over the United States, which is also a plus for us locally here in the Portuguese American community in Central California and beyond throughout the state, because it brings all these different voices and it connects the various communities. The Leadership Academy is something we did last August, and we're going to repeat this year. It is done through the California Portuguese American Coalition, and PBBI participates in it as well. Right here, as you can see, is our Tribuna Legacy, which is a page that we do about oral history, and in this case, about our Celebrating Our Voz project that is done in collaboration with the Tribuna Portuguesa newspaper. And here, this is actually some students of a Portuguese language classroom here in Tulare, where I've given a talk, and we try to work with the high schools as much as we can as well. Our poetry month that we did for the first time last year virtually was a huge success. We were hoping to get like 30 different voices in 30 days. We ended up with 90 voices in 30 days, 90 different poets. It is now considered the biggest Portuguese poetry festival in the United States. We're hoping to repeat it. So throughout the month of April, from April 1st to the end of April, we will have April 30th, we will have basically about 3 different poets or academics who teach poetry reading from different poems. These are very small excerpts of about a minute, 2, 3, sometimes 4 minutes. Here are some of the people who participated. One of the most famous right here on the bottom right side is Ana Luisa Amaral, who is one of Portuguese premier poets, and who we were glad, we were happy, we were honored that she said, sure, I'll be more than happy to read something for Fresno State. So and all of these are very well-known voices in Portugal. Of course, as we said, we partner up with different organizations. We've done some different things when we were in person. Here is a picture with Chef Paulo Rocha, who we had an event at Fresno State. It was a fundraiser and a fun event with Portuguese cuisine. We, of course, try to bring in as many community voices as possible. That's what we're all about. And bringing in the Azores, we work very, very closely with the Azorean Immigrants Association. We're going to have actually a conference with them in collaboration with them, a partnership coming up on March 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th. And of course, we're about, as I continue to feature some things about different partnerships with the Luso-American Education Foundation, information for Portuguese language teachers. We try to do an amalgam of works. Something that we are starting to put forth is a digital collection. And we thank our good friend Kathy Mendes Gully, the Tulare Newspapers group, that are every time that they do all their research and they see something about the Portuguese, they send it over to us. We want PBBI through our library to have a digital collection of all the stories as much as possible that were done throughout, especially the last 100 years of Portuguese Americans in the Valley, anywhere in the Valley. So, and we are hoping that other people can help us, people in the northern part of the Valley, in Hilmar, Turlock, Chowchilla, Atwater, Merced, and Madeira. These are from the Riverdale and from the Hanford area. We have some from the Tulare. We have some that I didn't put here, but one of them that caught my attention was when we talk about bullfights. There was a bullfight in Tulare in 1922, and that just blows my mind because, sometimes we think bullfights are a tradition that the younger or the newer generations, those who came after 1960, brought to the States, but indeed it had been around for a while. And so these are some of the pictures of some of our events that we've had, some of our connections with the students, with the visit of the FLAD president, Dr. Rita Faden, our president, Dr. Saul Jimenez Sandoval, who's a very, very strong supporter of everything that we do at PBBI. Our oral history for the video, we're actually doing oral histories right now, recording. We hope to have it all recorded by maybe the end of April, beginning of May. Maybe that's being a little bit too utopian, but we're trying. And then we're going to start the pre-production and then, of course, the production of the documentary. This is basically with two community members here, as you can see. One of them is Kathy Mendes-Gully on the right, and the other one on the left is Father Dan Avila. And it's going to be about the festa. So like we had the Untold Stories, kind of a generic one. This one is focusing very much on the story of the Portuguese and the culture through the festa. And we still would like to get about another 10 or 11 interviews that will also be archived, the entire interview, but then bits and pieces will be part of this documentary. And these are just some of the things that we are involved in and that we have been doing in outreach with other folks. Our Hub project right here, Hub for Language and Teaching and Learning, is an online basically toolkit that is, we've done all of the preliminary, and when I say we, not me, but the Hub students of the linguistic students have done a lot of the preliminary studies and a lot of the investigative work that had to be done, all of the research. And now we're going to start to build upon teaching Portuguese through folk tales and having these tools access online so folks, not just high school teachers or elementary teachers can use them, but also folks in their own home can, if they know a little bit of Portuguese, they can read it and will have ideas on how to get their kids or their grandkids or their nieces or nephews involved. A conference that we had, which was very, very near to our heart, it was called The Voice of Grandparents, Wisdom and Endearment, and it is all archived on our YouTube channel as well. And this is something that we are very, very excited about, and we hope to launch it here in the next 2 weeks. And I'm going to actually ask Ashley, put her on the spot, basically, about this, because I would like Ashley, and I've also contacted one other person, another good friend of ours, which is Dr. Linda Carvalho Cooley. He also teaches at Fresno State. And I was hoping that Ashley and Linda and maybe one other person that I have in mind, between the four of us, we could put this together. It was basically a Portuguese American Educators Leadership Network, not something to give people a lot of work, but something that would bring us all together. There's lots of folks in education. Sometimes, we don't even know where they are in education. So to bring us together, maybe have a couple of Zoom events per year, maybe have a once a year in-person event at Fresno State. Um, it's national. In other words, it's Portuguese American wherever you are. But of course, we want to get as much local participation. And that's something that's just in the process. Actually, your thoughts. I think it'd be something that would be actually we could use to entice the younger generation, those who are just getting to college or are in college right now and don't know what their major is going to be, or are just ending their high school career, or have went in from high school or even college, went into the workforce, but are unhappy with their job and are thinking about going back to college and doing something else different, to kind of promote the field of education, because the field of education is not just what I do in the classroom, it's also what a lot of other people do, and so important what you do as an academic counselor. So what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I feel like people can never have too many mentors in their life. And, um, like you said, if you can kind of provide them with some guidance or at least connect them to somebody, it allows, us to share our story and our journey, because we all took a different path to get where we are. And sometimes it's hard for students to see down that path or even know who to talk to or who to connect them to. And I myself would want to connect with other people, across the United States. And, education is everywhere. So it's not just Fresno State, right?
Sure.
So I think that would be fantastic. Yeah.
And the major will of course have to develop a vision and mission for this, but I think the major point is exactly what you mentioned, is the connecting, and thus the network, but also the mentorship. It's very important. Sometimes a younger Portuguese American whose parents, grandparents, or even great grandparents immigrated from Portugal, from the Azores, is thinking about getting an education, but sometimes they would like to maybe they'd like to get to know, have a conversation, someone who actually is of that same background. Although, as you said, actually we all took different paths. Obviously I took a very different path. And so but it's important that sometimes you connect with someone that has that cultural background, that can connect through some sense of identity. Your thoughts?
Yeah, exactly. I absolutely agree. I know even, just on campus, you'll see someone that with a Portuguese last name, and you automatically think, oh, like there's a connection. You don't even know that person. So
Yeah.
that was like me coming into all this. I just reached out to you, right? Like
Yes, and
I
i'm
wanted
and
to
i'm
get involved.
and
So
I'm glad you did. I'm
yeah,
glad you
I
did.
think, it would be a great opportunity. And like you said, having that like familiarness with maybe a tradition that they celebrate or something, it definitely kind of makes you have a good rapport right off the bat almost, because you can just relate to them almost instantly.
Indeed, indeed. And so we're hoping to launch this in the next few weeks. The preliminaries of it, and Fresno State will be housing it. And we hope to get a lot of educators. There's a lot of educators here in the Valley that have Portuguese background. Folks who work in education, classroom, folks who work in administration, folks who work in counseling, folks who work in different aspects, whether it be higher ed, or secondary or elementary. And so it's been 3 years, nothing like a good piece of cake, although I don't have a physical one here because I'm supposed to be losing some weight, whatever that means. But it is a good way to always talk about is with a good piece of cake to be part of this journey. So we kind of gave you a little bit of Reader's Digest, as I call it. Used to be a newspaper that I know that some of you younger people have never heard of, but it used to be a newspaper, a magazine that would kind of give a synopsis of things. So we kind of give a Reader's Digest version of it. But we really look forward to taking PBBI as we now move post-pandemic into a new phase. And I see that we have Melissa Jessenheiser on, and hopefully we can have Melissa also give a little bit of her testimonial. We have a lot of different projects that we are going to be putting forth. There's two exciting projects with the service learning that we're really, really excited about. But before we get to Melissa, welcome, Melissa. First of all, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. Before we get to Melissa, Ashley, you've been kind of here since the inception. You kind of heard about this. The president of the Azores is going to talk. I'm going to be part of this. You brought your parents. You forced your parents. Hope it wasn't really a lot of forcing, but they drove a little bit to come to the event. And what are your thoughts? Even though we've had a pandemic, what are your thoughts on PBBI and what we can do here for the community through Fresno State, of course, and for our students most of all?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I heard about it and wanted to get involved just because I was, born and raised Portuguese American, and it's been really fun. I enjoy the in-person better because I'm just a very social person, but I love that we've continued it even though in-person isn't an option. Plus it allows for people from all over the world. We're on Zoom calls with people in the Azores, in Portugal. So I think it's amazing that we have that technology and the ability to share that with people who may be familiar with the culture or may not be and want to learn more. And I've made a lot of connections with students, with faculty, staff, people that I may not have ever built that connection without this program. And I'm excited to see all the stuff that's still coming, the oral history about the festas. That's going to be amazing. I loved the first one that you guys put out. I'm wondering if you ever sleep though, because you have so much going on.
I sleep a little bit. My grandmother, who's one of my mentors, used to say, and I'll say it in Portuguese, translated in English, tens, depois de ires para a cova, tens o resto da eternidade para dormir, which means after you die, you have the rest of eternity to sleep.
And
so
do
all you can. And so it may not be, a good advice, but that's what she gave me. But indeed, we have tried to continue with this. And since we have Melissa on, I wanted to ask her if she could give us, I know that the program is in a very embryonic kind of a stage right now. We're just in the beginning, but I got to know, for those of you following us that don't know, Melissa Jessenheiser works at Fresno State as well. I got to know her through the literary world and our family that we're building called the Cagajo Colloquium. Cagajo is a very typical bird in the Azores that actually is not native to the Azores. It goes there to get food, and it goes there to kind of live there for a while, then it goes back again out in the water. And so kind of made sense that the community of writers be called that. And I was totally, to say the least, totally impressed with Melissa's writing. She read for us two exceptional pieces that were moving, they were intelligent, they were well done, they were well written. And so we hope actually that we can do an anthology. That's one of my dreams for the near future, and not because I'm old, so I have to think of things in the near future. The near future is an anthology of writers that write about the Portuguese American experience from a different perspective, with different pieces, whether they are fiction, nonfiction, whether it's poetry, whether it's a short story, etc. And so that's one of the things that we're hoping to do with Bruma Publications that we have just began. But so that's how I got to know Melissa. And then from there, of course, met Chris, and a couple of new projects that are in the works that you were talking about, actually a couple of things that are going to come up. So this is, I think, probably the first time we're going to talk about it kind of in a public sense, so public forum. So Melissa, first of all, welcome, and tell us about it, because I'm very excited about this.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'm just so pleased to be here to celebrate PBBI's third anniversary. Just on a personal note, it has been really meaningful for me, as I've gotten to know you, and then you open the doors to all of these wonderful offerings. Like Ashley, I don't know how you sleep or when you sleep, rather, because every week there's opportunities to go online to learn more, to attend readings or workshops or conferences. And I have Azerian ancestry from my mother's side, and that's really like the culture I grew up in, participating in festas and things like that, but also felt somewhat removed because it was my great grandparents who immigrated here. And through the offerings of PBBI, I felt a re-engagement and a reinvigoration with this part of my heritage, and it has been really meaningful for me. And so I'm so grateful to you and the work that you do, and in connecting all of us as part of this community. And so I am thrilled that in my role at Fresno State, I'm work with the Jan and Bud Richter Center for Community Engagement and Service Learning. And for years pre-pandemic, we've been doing international service learning trips with our students. And we're so excited to share that in May of 2023, May, June. Dates still to be finalized. We're planning 2 possible trips, service learning trips to the Azores. And Denisia's kindly and making the connections for us with folks in the islands to find some projects that will be meaningful for the folks there as well as for our students. And it's going to be a really great way to help our students connect with the folks in the islands. And I know I'm personally really excited because I'm going to go on this trip, and I definitely have a bias towards that region and wanting to see the things that I've only heard about or read about. But then, of course, there's the piece of bringing students along with us and enriching their educational experience.
Yeah, indeed. So we have 2 projects that were just in the first initial phase of it. We have a little over a year, but a year seems to go by real quick. And the projects would be one for the island of Pico, more ag oriented, but of course open to everyone through the vineyards of Pico, just a little bit of that. And then the other one, a little bit more of language and culture with the island of Terceira. Hopefully it'll be more than likely around the municipality of Angra. Angra is one of the oldest cities in the Azores, and it's a World Heritage Site. So it's wonderful for our students to be part of a World Heritage Site for a few weeks. And it also is the oldest sister city program in the Azores. It has a sister city with the city of Tulare in where I live in the south of Fresno. And it is the oldest sister city program in the Azores, and we believe also the oldest in all of Portugal. If not, it is the second. We're kind of trying to get that information. But because of that, actually, just to share with everyone, one of our professors that's working with me on Bruma Publications is also working, does some work with a sister city program that Fresno has. Fresno has several sister city programs in Armenia, and I believe in Japan and Mexico, and a couple other countries. And he enticed me of starting a sister city program between Fresno and Portugal, maybe mainland Portugal, which that would be awesome too, because there's lots of similarities between the valley and the Alentejo region in Portugal. And there's a dairy industry, the almond industry, the vineyards. And so it is something that it would be, I think, advantageous for our students also, and for the community in general. There's not, Fresno is one of the cities, being the largest city in the valley, but it's not one that has tons of Portuguese, as both of you know. Actually, knows that probably Chowchilla has more Portuguese than Fresno, and Atwater and Helmar for sure, I can tell you that, and Tulare and Hanford. It's not the case. I mean, there's I believe the census numbers indicate about about 7,000 Portuguese in that identifies Portuguese in Fresno. So that's quite a few actually. But percentage-wise, to 500,000 people, it's a small amount. But our history in Fresno is so deep that it is worth exploring a sister city, and that would give us our students another opportunity for another region in Portugal to go do some service learning or an exchange program. So and the one interstate, I should say, is more around language and culture, right? Literary adventures, that as well. So that's two new projects that we have for the summer of 2023. We're also looking at a couple of other. We're looking at restarting our exchange program at the Jordan College of Agricultural Science and Technology. We have 4 to 5 students do an internship in the Azores, as we've done that, and have their students come over in January because that's their break where they can come for a month. And then we have all of these events, and hopefully we were talking when Melissa joined us about the Portuguese American Educators Network. I think that is something I'd like to get also, of course, Melissa involved in, and our literary world, which is I'm looking at you for leadership in that as well with us, because we'd like Bruma to publish a couple of books a year, but besides that, we would like Bruma to actually do something that I'm going to mention here. It's one of our objectives for the next 12 to 14 months, let's put it that way, is to get Bruma to actually do a literary studies journal related to the Portuguese American experience, because we have 2 excellent ones in the East Coast. University of Massachusetts Dartmouth, that's an excellent one, and Brown University, Gavia Brown, has been around since 1980, and they are the premier one. But we haven't had one in the West Coast. Santa Barbara, University of California, Santa Barbara did one for a while, but it has not had any continuity, especially in the last decade or so, at least. And so we'd like to do that online. Obviously, it'll be an e-version because that's the way all of these journals are now published. But I believe that we have enough material that we could do an e-journal about the Portuguese American experience through Buma Publications once a year, a yearly journal, and that would be great as well. Yeah, and of course we want to continue and hopefully have Ashley do what we've done. We've had a couple of sessions already with high school students. And actually, the high school teachers have asked me when we're going to do that again, and maybe do an online version with the high school students to give them information about Fresno State and some mentorship, some folks that they can get a hold of, Ashley and others, to give them guidance as they go to continue their university studies. So lots of different things. We want to continue these connections. I want to thank Ashley and Melissa for joining us. I want to thank all of you who are joining us at different social media outlets. So we're live, and we're also recorded for Face. It will be on our YouTube channel. And we are hoping to have an in-person event. I'd like to put one in-person event in late April. So be in tune with us. We'll try to have, if things continue in the positive aspect that they have been in the last 3 to 4 weeks, we are hoping to have at Mid-Camp's Alumni House, an event to bring us all together and kind of have a reflective maybe hour or two, and maybe some couple glasses of wine or whatever wine or water, but have a little bit of a social aspect of it as well, to kind of bring us all together and talk about these events that we are going to be put forth. One last event that I'd like to share with you, and that is a teacher's event. And so actually we'll need a lot of help on that aspect. We are working with the Central California World Language Project, and with our School of Education, Criminal School of Education, and we to put forth a program that will involve high school districts. We're trying to get 6 to 8 districts in California, in Central California. So basically Madera, Fresno, Kings, and Tulare counties that are willing to take a chance and select one of their Spanish teachers who might be interested in teaching Portuguese. Our lack is of teachers. Now, we have interest from students that want to take Portuguese at a high school level, but we don't have the educators. But I know personally 3 Spanish high school students who are pretty fluent in Portuguese and could teach it. And so we are going to put forth a program. It will be like a 1-year program. We're hoping to get off, if not might not be in the fall of 2022, but in the spring of 2023. And it will be a 1-year program with the help of the districts, with Fresno State, with the Central California World Language Project, and to train anywhere between 6 to 8 teachers that at the end of 1 year would be able to teach, to pass, of course, the subject competency test, and teach also Portuguese. And that would end, for those of you out there that teach Spanish and interested, and you want to entice your districts, that would end with a 2-week trip to the Azores, because I think that would give the Spanish teachers that cultural immersion that they need for 2 weeks to come back. And that would be at the end of their school year. School usually ends in high school around the first week of June. So it'd be like the second and third week of June, and or the third and fourth, and they would come back, and they would be able to start, even if just 1 Portuguese language class. It's much easier for a district to take a existing teacher and say, listen, we're going to invest in you and you're going to start a Portuguese language program, than to hire someone who would only have maybe 30 students the first year. That is not feasible. So that's another exciting project that we really are looking forward to. So lots of new things. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Ashley. Thank you all. And may we be here 30 years from now, celebrating the 33rd. How about that? Thank you all. Take care.
Thanks,
Thank
Denise.
you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Thank you all.